Cool, let's go. Hi, Wildheart Diaries family. I'm so happy to introduce you to one of my dear friends here in Miami, Morgan Field. She is an Amazon number one best-selling author. She is an intuitive coach and just an absolute guru at life, self-love, confidence, and all things happiness. And yeah, kicking life's goals. I love it. And I'm so happy that I met her here in Miami. She's been a really big influence in my life here. So welcome, Morgan. Thank you for chatting with us today.
Yeah,
So
I'm
happy
excited
to have
to
you
hear.
here. I just thought we'd start off by asking you who you are and what brings you to Miami. I know you've traveled a lot and you've traveled all over the world actually, and working and doing incredible things for other people. So yeah, go ahead.
So I'll jump in with what brings me to Miami. My whole life, I've been really pulled to, I'm a sun goddess. I've been pulled to the sun. I come from a family of individuals who, I feel like the outsider because they really enjoy the seasons. They enjoy, oh, what would I do without fall? What would I do without winter? And I was like, I would be on a beach in a bikini. I know what I would do without these things. And so for years, I mean, even since I was like, I remember being 16 and like wanting to come to school down here, and I've always been pulled here. And so what happened well, we couldn't afford to send me down here. The out of state tuition was really expensive, so I went somewhere else. But I was still like my heart, and I feel like we're pulled places, whether we're traveling the world or whether it's someplace to live. And I think that's actually what made, right before I moved here, I was in 8 countries in like 3 or 4 months. And the thing is that I figured out how to make money and create a business from one of my passions, which is travel and culture indulgence and just using the world as a playground. What was interesting though is once I got down here, I realized that I just wanted to sit still. And I've been traveling for 10 years straight. And it was like, ooh, give me a few months to just sit still and anchor because this is a new place and I want to create roots. And it's my heaven on earth. And I've been, you've been to my house. I have this amazing pool in my backyard. And so to finally be in a space where I have this divine sanctuary in my own, it's like, if this is my home, I wake up every morning, I'm like, I cannot believe I'm here. And so what's really neat is when you have that travel lifestyle, it's about figuring out, well, when you're not traveling, what actually is your heaven on earth. And one of the things I realized super powerfully when I moved down here was how much Chicago was not my heaven on earth. And that's why I was traveling as much as I was traveling. So I will always travel because it's a part of my it's a part of my DNA. It's in the fiber of my being, and I love it. It's just that when you give yourself permission to genuinely create your heaven on earth, you also want to create adventures in your local area as well, which is really cool.
Totally. And it's so funny that you say that actually, because that's the same as me. I haven't been traveling for anywhere near as long as you. You are just like an absolute guru. But for me, like I've been traveling for the best part of 4 years and like full on backpacking pretty much from most of that time. And when I got to Miami, I didn't go on a self holiday for 10 months, which is crazy for me. But I've come to the like conclusion that I just needed to stop and just reflect on everything that's happened. Like I've been so go, 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 and just thoroughly enjoying my adventures along the way, but I hadn't really taken the time to just absorb all the knowledge and the experience and everything that I've been through. So I was the same. I just had my apartment and I just made it into a little zen den. And I don't want to like on my days off, I will happily spend 2 days straight in my apartment, writing, just relaxing, doing, whatever I'm reading. And it's the best. It's just like, yeah, heaven on earth. So that's so cool that, it's so funny that I didn't even know that about your story. So that's really cool to know. And so when and where and how did you start off your Wanderlust journey at first? Like what was your pull to go traveling or to go on that first adventure?
So I've been really fortunate in my life on just the opportunities that have come to me. I live a very blessed life. And so I remember being in the corporate world and I got I was doing sales and consulting for an organization that, as you escalate in your, title with your corporate ladder, you get to travel. And I remember the very first travel for me was they were sending me to California. Well, actually the cool thing is it's kind of limitless possibility. You get a book of business. Companies are all over the world. Or all over the company I was working for, the companies that we were working with were all over the US. So my wanderlust started actually in the US. And what happened was I remember getting this book of business and saying, okay, so then this was like 10 years ago. And I was like, okay, so where do I want to go? So the way that I have always run business is so different than the way I watch other people do it. I genuinely was like, where do I want to go and how can I create opportunities to make money in those areas? It's the same way I built my standalone business that I built from the ground up. It's in 18 countries now. So, it's like I'm doing something right. So I always believe go with desire first. Where's your heart pulling you, and then create money from a space of desire. So I did the same thing in my business, although I was using it on the company's dime. And, they were paying for the travel. So it's like I could go anywhere I wanted. And there was an opportunity in California, and I'd never been in California. So that was the first travel that I booked for with my business. And then I don't know, I didn't take it as like, I didn't look at it like the way other people looked at it. I felt like a lot of serious energy around me in the corporate world, which I think I got sucked into it a little bit when I was in there. But I remember going, what do I want to do there that would be fun? I'm going to be there for 2 days. I'm going to be meeting with clients during the day, but I have time, or I could even fly in early. So I flew in early and I took a surf lesson, and then at night I was like just out and about. And I always ask when I travel, where do the locals go? I would always ask the concierge, like, where is like a gem, like a hidden gem local spot that only the locals know about? And I'd go in and I'd meet some characters. And then in that same trip, I ended up going to Las Vegas as I had another client there. And then I had my girlfriend come and visit me. So I have to pay for any extra days that I stay places, but it was always like, why not book, travel on a Monday and on a Friday, and then I could stay ahead of the trip and after the trip on my dime. I'm creating a lot of money for the company because I'm finding opportunities, and I get to then create, love and connection and fun and adventure, whether it's by myself or with other people. So this was like the beginning. And I started looking at it like, where else do I want to go? What adventures can I create when I'm there? And then my international travel adventure started when I was getting this itch to go to London for a training seminar. And it was at the point where I had worked my way pretty high into the company, and I had accrued a lot of time off, and I had a lot of money. So I had a lot of time and a lot of money. And I was like, where do I want to go? And so I took a trip for 2 weeks. I took 2 weeks off, and I went to London, Rome. Where else did I go? Paris. I'm sure there were some other places too, but it was like one of those things where I just took 2 weeks off. I think it was like 4 or 5 countries, and I just hopped around and indulged and explored. And then I realized I wanted more of that, and I wanted to share it with people because I went by myself. All of my travel was always by myself in some way, shape, or form. So that's how I ended up creating a business where I host retreats now all over the world. And I take people with me, and we do life coaching and adventures, and we create experiences that really transform your life and your mind and create new experiential reference points for your ninja mind and your just neural pathways to actually recreate who you actually are and identify as a new version of you that you actually want to be. So, yeah.
That is so amazing. Oh my gosh. So cool. And what are the 3 most powerful life lessons traveling experiences has taught you?
I think one of the most powerful ones, I'm always surprised, and I kind of giggle, but I'm like, when you go someplace, we went to South Africa. South Africa is one of my favorite places that we've been. And so many people had fear around South Africa. Like when I was telling people I was going to South Africa, it was like, oh, what if, and the blah, 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 like all of these fears and anxieties. And I just thought it was so curious because I don't typically spend a lot of my emotional energy on those emotional homes, fear and anxiety. And yet people kept projecting this. And I even noticed some of the clients that were coming with me who typically don't spend time in fear or anxiety, that they were getting it projected on them as well. And we get there, and none of the things that people were saying were true. And so it's interesting to me, and I see this a lot with other people who travel as well, is I actually have a cousin who does what you mentioned, like the backpacking in the hostels, and we always joke that one time she's going to take me on a trip where I've got to, hang out at a hostel and get that experience. Because I typically am luxury, and then I told her I'll take her with me on one that's luxury so that we can both get each other's experience. And so it's interesting because what stops a lot of people from traveling is fear. What stops a lot of people from doing things that they really want to do in any facet of their life is typically fear or anxiety or what if. And every single time I go somewhere, I'm like, South Africa was magical. It was so magical. And it kind of makes me sad that that this world is genuinely this massive playground of opportunity and love and magic and adventure, and people don't get to experience it because of what others might be projecting or what we hear or what we think. And it's not even true, or even there are some places that are on my hit list that, some people in my life in particular have, they love you through fear, and so it's not absorbing that. So one of my lessons too is just giving myself permission that if my intuition is pulling me somewhere, that it's my responsibility to honor that. And other people don't need to understand it. Other people don't need to get it. It's my responsibility to own my power and to stay out of fear. So my power is my intuition. So if my intuition is guiding me somewhere, then go with it and roll with it. I also feel like one of the things that I see across every, you get to look at patterns when you travel. And, humanity, it's a thread that is woven throughout is love and connection. It's something that's so beautiful and so profound, and just like, it brings tears to my eyes a little bit because, gosh, it's just like, it's such a beautiful thing that you can go to another country. You're kind of each trying to speak the language of the other person. And even in Miami, that happens, right?
100%.
Yeah. And yet it's like genuine desire to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And it just restores so much faith in the humanity of just like everyone just wants for that love and connection. And it's so, now understanding you have to be on that frequency, and I am. Like, I desire to connect with people. So I'm traveling around the world and I'm like having a great time. And so it's really cool to see how people respond when you're open to connect, and like how much they also want it as well. And the other thing too is, again, so when I travel, I always like to make sure that I'm asking questions like, where are the locals going? I want the experience of what the locals are doing. And it's just, or how can I create that experience for myself? And if I'm with a group, how can I do that in a way that still allows the individuals that are with me to feel in, their own safety. And so it's just this fine balance in the stance of a life adventure. But yeah, every single time it's always even more fun and mind-blowing than you think it is if you just allow yourself to walk into an experience with a clean slate of expectation, just being like, I don't know what to expect, but and then like you really, it's cool where you end up and the things that you get to experience.
Wow, I completely and utterly agree with everything that you just said. And travel has just totally changed my life as well. So it's really cool. When did you begin conscious engineering? When and how did you discover your spirituality, and how did you learn to follow your intuition? Because we have so many layers of stuff we need to break through to kind of get to your intuition and to get to your spirituality and purpose. How did you get through that stuff?
Well, if you look at like a 4-year-old, they come in with it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we have it when we come in, and then we're conditioned out of it, and then we have an opportunity to recondition ourselves into who we authentically are underneath everything. So it's like taking off all the things that have been put on you. So I feel like probably around 28, so I'm 35. So around 28 was when I started reawakening. For me, and I actually see this with a lot of people I work with a lot of light workers. I work with a lot of people who are here to leave really epic imprints on the world, who are just profound light beings who have these really beautiful soul missions, and to help usher them into their power, help usher them into their greatness, help usher them out of the conditioning of society, and help them really own who they are and their spiritual gifts. And so what for me, one of the things that I see that's really common with light workers is because depending on how your childhood was or what happened. So for me, I was always told when I would talk about things that were very intuitive, or when I knew things that were beyond my 4-year-old years or 5-year-old years or 8-year-old years, I would be told you have a wild imagination. Or, oh, that's just, no, that's not, no, like, oh, that's interesting. But, and so it would be invalidated. It wasn't intentional. It
Mm-hmm.
was just, and so it's like sometimes if people can't understand consciously what's happening, then it's dismissed. And I watch it happen a lot with kids, whereas they're like the most magic little majestic beings, right? And so so I always, when I'm around nuggets, I just like celebrate them and honor them, and just like, oh, I love it. So about 28, I was awakening, but the thing is that if you are a light worker, you have to be very conscious of your escapism techniques, your numbing techniques, and any addiction energy that you have. Your addiction energy can actually be channeled and transmuted into part of your power. It's how I've been able to create the empire that I have built and continue to construct and architect. It's really important to identify those. And so the thing is that it took me a couple of years as I was awakening and expanding to free myself of, for me it was alcohol, or I was a workaholic and just throwing all of my attention, energy, and focus into my corporate job. And then the other piece was toxic relationships. And so, and I talk about this a lot in the book, right, is like where I came from to where I was and how I got there, to help other people transmute their darkness into light, or, just how to increase your consciousness, how to learn to go from maybe defining success as what society defines it as, or your family defines it as, to defining success as what I now define success, which is how much time you spend loving being you. And so, and I love being me, and so it's consciously constructing that life. And so it's taken years and years and years, and I'm still on that path. I will always want more and more and more and more. And I would just say that, for me, the thing that shifted it the most profoundly was when I decided to commit to taking that energetic vibration of that addiction energy that were channeled towards very unhealthy mechanisms, to creating conscious coping mechanisms to deal with being human. That's another thing with light workers. Like, we can be up here and fly all we want, but we came here to be human. So it's something I'm always working on. And yeah, and so it's just that sobriety for me personally, because that was one of my addiction pieces, it has really changed my ability to have absolute clarity in mind, body, soul. And, and then also it's like, more money to travel and more money to do all these other things by quitting that, and a ton more energy. So it's been happening for a lot of years. I'm committed to it being like a lifetime though.
So cool. So cool. If you had 1 week to live and no limitation, how would you feel your last moments?
I think I live my life that way now.
Yeah, girl.
Like,
perfect answer.
Yeah, like I genuinely believe that we came here to create our heaven on earth. And if you do that, like, then you're spending time with people you love. You're doing all of the things that allow you to love being you. And so again, that question depends on how you define success. And I define success as how much time I get to love being me. And so if I'm spending my last week infinitely loving being me, now if I genuinely knew it was, a week, it's like, sure, I might also, go on, I might just take the week and just like go be like, okay, let's adventure, let's go do this. I might fly to Chicago and go see my Nuggets, but it's like, those are all things that my niece and nephew, but those are things that I'm working on doing now anyways.
Yeah. I love that. Very cool. Confidence or courage? What's most important or more important?
Confidence comes from courage.
Right.
So you can't have confidence without having a series of moments in your life where you're choosing to be courageous.
Yeah. That's so true. I've never really thought about it like that, but yeah, I love that. Very cool. Comfort zones. Let's talk comfort zones. Why are they so comfy, and are there powerful benefits to challenging resistance and taking risks?
I mean, that's what I teach people to do for a living. Yeah. Not being in your comfort zone. That's not what I teach people to do. I teach them. Yeah. So, oh man, comfort zones are really sneaky. I talk about this a lot. If you follow like the videos I do on YouTube or just any of the work in the book, I mean, it's just all, there's actually an entire section in the book called Comfy Slob. Because it's the thing is that, so I call it the ninja mind. There's a version of our mind. You'll always notice me, it's like from the left. It's basically where my head chatter is. So each person is a little bit different, but if you watch, but I think on your screen it might be the right, it's mirrored. But there's a version of our mind that its sole purpose is to keep us safe, to keep us in a zone where status quo, like we know exactly what to expect, even if that means pain.
Mm-hmm.
And any time that you go to step outside of your comfort zone to expand it, that voice kicks up and starts telling you all these reasons why you shouldn't do it. And it tells you all the reasons why staying the same is wonderful. And it's like it's like a record that's just looping around over and over and over again. If you're not conscious that that's happening, then my guess is that version of your mind is winning and you're buying your own bullshit. But because you don't even realize that your mind is doing that. And so this is where getting really tapped into your intuitive mind is important, because your intuitive mind, some people may call it spirit or soul, or it's like the universe, whatever, but it is for expansion. It is always going to offer you opportunities for soul growth. Mm-hmm. This is where courage comes in again, and confidence. Having the courage to hear the ninja mind, label it as the ninja mind. Like, oh, that's just trying to keep me in the same place. So what do I actually want? Well, I want to grow. So growth is conscious. Like, you have to decide ahead of time that you want to grow. So it's like, okay, I want to grow. And then understanding that your intuition, it's like your heart, your gut, all these different language centers that people use when they talk about an intuitive body. It's like the whisper, it's going to pull you to growth naturally. And so a piece of that is just understanding, because this is what I see a lot of clients struggle with. Well, I don't know if this is fear or if this is intuition that's telling me to do this thing. Mm-hmm. And so it's also just a journey of practice. Mm-hmm. You'll always know after you do something if it was fear or intuition. And so sometimes this is where courage comes in again. Sometimes you just have to have the courage to put yourself into action and see. Mm-hmm. And then harvest the lesson. Like, okay, well, was that fear or was that intuition? And then you get to actually feel it out. Where a lot of people stay stuck in indecision, and that's part of your ninja mind's way of keeping you in your comfort zone. Also, what our comfort zone, this is why it's so sneaky. And the more that you expand, the smarter your ninja mind becomes. There have been times in my own career, and I have to still very consciously be aware of it, where because of the amount of success that I have achieved, my ninja mind starts to tell me, oh, just take some time off. Now, sometimes I do need time off. But it's listening. It's like, is my intuitive body telling me to take time off, or is my ninja mind telling me, like, sit on your couch? You know, in the book, The Comfy Slob, like, sit on the couch, watch 4 days of Netflix. It's cool. Like, you deserve it. It's like, what? You deserve to waste 4 days of your life? Like, that doesn't make sense. You deserve to put junk in your body? That doesn't make sense to my intuitive body. But the ninja mind, it makes perfect sense because it's trying to sabotage my greatness. So it's just about understanding that the ninja mind is going to tell you busy work is going to move you forward. Your intuitive body actually knows what will move you forward. And so it's those things where it's like asking yourself. I just did a workshop for entrepreneurs yesterday, and one of the things that we talk about is, well, what actually matters that will move you forward. Right? Like, what do you need to do? So if it's a business, as an example, like, what do you actually need to do in your business that will actually move you forward towards your goal? And 9 times out of 10, our ninja mind is going to be like, oh, it's your website, it's your business card, and it's like, no, it's something else. It's something that's actually going to take a lot of courage. And so it's, what's the courageous thing that if you did that thing is actually going to expand you. And oftentimes what happens, which keeps us in our comfort zone, is our ninja mind tells us, well, we're not ready for that thing yet. We'll be ready when. And it has a list of things that you need to do before you're ready to do the actual thing that will move you forward. So it's just paying attention to the dialogue that is happening and the internal battle that's happening. You've got lots of voices. And so we all have lots of voices in our head. And I feel like if we can start having conscious conversations, observing them versus participating in them or believing them, it allows us to identify where our comfort zone is and where we're actually being pulled to expand.
Totally. Well said. I love that. So speaking of fear, what are your best strategies for kicking fear to the curb and living life to the absolute fullest?
You do the thing that you fear. Like,
tackle it head on.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. So I was having dinner the other night with a group of people, and one of the individuals was asking me about anxiety, and very successful individual. And I was kind of surprised that the amount of anxiety that they were expressing that they had and that I was tapping into. And it was like there was this thread I started pulling on. And what it really came down to was, well, what's the thing you're afraid of? Okay, cool. What if you did that thing? How might that change your anxiety? And this individual was like, whoa, I didn't think about it like that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, think about like confidence. Again, confidence comes from being courageous. Courage comes from facing fear. They're all tied together. It's like a beautiful partnership. And so when we do the things that we're not sure how we're going to do them, that's another ninja mind tactic. Well, how are we going to do it? You don't need to know how. You just need to start. You just need to decide, I'm going to face this. I'm going to be all in. And I think that's the thing too, is whether it's something little, so you don't have to like jump out of a plane, although I have had ladies jump out of a plane on a retreat before. So you never know what you're getting into when you come on a retreat with me. But and the retreats are all unknown. It's about changing your relationship with the unknown. So you get there and you're just signed up for whatever it is that we're going to do. You could choose to say no to an activity, but then you more than likely would be choosing to say no to some confidence and courage. You're choosing fear. So that's the other thing too. It's like, it's the whole, which wolf are you feeding? It's that metaphor of, are you feeding your dreams or are you feeding fear? Are you feeding desire or are you feeding fear? Are you feeding love or are you feeding fear? And a lot of us just feed fear way too much. And feeding it means not doing whatever it is that you want to do because you don't know how, or you're afraid, or you're met with resistance. And the reason I've been able to grow my business as fast as I have from the ground up, or one of the reasons, is because when I'm afraid of something, my agreement with fear, before fear even comes in, my agreement is I'll do it. And it puts me in situations that just really, I'm like, man, this agreement sucks. But afterwards, it's always amazing. Yeah. Always. There's never once been a single time where it hasn't been absolutely beautiful after. every single time. It's absolutely positively amazing. It's just the before and the during and the, it's, and then afterwards you're like, oh, I did that thing, and confidence comes.
Amazing. So cool. So I know we've touched on this a little bit, but what is your superpower?
Got a lot of superpowers.
I'm sure you have many. I think you're like so skilled in so many different areas, but your one main superpower.
I'm able to see the soul imprint of a being. So I'm able to look at someone and see their soul magic. Yeah. And just see like who you came here to be. Now, understanding we all have free will. So it always blows my mind when, I meet someone and I see the gap. The gap is actually what causes the distress. And that's what I work with clients on, is what's that gap? Who did you actually come here to be? What is your soul? What is your magic, your soul magic? What, like, the brilliance and majesty of your divine nature and your soul mission? I can see it. So when someone is, the closer you are to it, the more in alignment that you are with your higher self, the more flow you have, the more ease you have. So so part of what I do when I work with people one-on-one or at retreats or at events is help them work their way closer to the version of them that actually their soul will understand the most and allow them to be the most fully expressed version of themselves. Cause this, I've done, that's a lot of what I've done because that's my soul power. So I'm able to be that, to lead it for people to see. So sometimes when I used to get this a lot actually, like people will often meet me and wonder if my smile and happiness is authentic, right? Because there's something inside them that is a story that my level of love for life and love for myself and love for people and humanity and adventure, and that it's not actually possible. And so I defy their limitation of their own ninja mind. And so what ends up happening is, but I'm consistent. So you're around me enough and eventually someone's like, shit, okay, all right. And so it becomes this really fun thing where it's just the more that you incrementally move your way towards your most vibrant divine self, the more peace and love and happiness that you'll have for yourself and with the world.
Absolutely. So cool. What consumes your curiosity?
Everything. I think for the past 6 years, on a very consistent ongoing basis, it is how the human mind works. Mm-hmm. Because I understand I don't need to be taught how the soul realm works. Mm-hmm. I get that. I channel, I can stop, pause, and get answers from the soul realm. The translation between soul realm to human, linguistically, to make the human mind understand it, is like a puzzle. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I've been so curious, and I'm always curious when I watch it, how the human apparatus actually functions. Because the body as well is part of that. The mind is the one that just does crazy stuff. But, the body is this brilliant human bodysuit that actually has a lot of divine intelligence for you. So, it took me a long time to learn that as well. But like if you're inflaming, there's something happening. If you have aches and pains or something, your body is trying to tell you something, but we typically medicate it. You know this, right? We typically medicate it, or, we ignore a lot of that. And so, so I've been very curious about the whole apparatus. That's why I got a background in holistic nutrition. It's why I studied yoga for breath work and understanding like body flow. It's why I studied life coaching. I really wanted to understand holistically how this whole humanness thing works, because that's something that, again, that myself and the majority of the people that I work with have to understand is when you're a really powerful light worker, you have to learn how to be human. You already know how to be soulful, or it doesn't take long to turn that switch back on. Even if you've been numbing it, like we can turn that back on it's, you know, it's understanding, okay, well, you also are human. So how do you neuro hack? How do we get into the subconscious? How do we do it as fast as possible? How do we do it in a way that is sustainable? So I'm always studying that, and I'm a super geek and nerd for all of that, for sure.
So rad. So cool. It's so important to know how your body and how everything works. It's like the only place you have to live. I'm super passionate about all that stuff as well. So cool. What advice would you give someone who's seeking more abundance in their life, but don't really know where to start?
So there's a formula, and it's something that the more I'm studying and teaching manifestation, which is basically, right, it's like, it's a concept that I think is so misunderstood I think as humans, our ninja mind makes it more complex than it needs to be. You just need to decide what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So it's our responsibility to decide, what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't decide what you want. Your mom can't decide what you want. Your boss can't decide what you want. Your partner can't decide what you want. Your responsibility is to decide what you want. And so it starts with, well, what do I actually want? So if it's more abundance, it's like being specific. Okay, great. Well, what does that mean? Like, what do you actually want? Do you want to manifest $10,000? That's your abundance. Do you want to manifest love? That's your abundance. Do you want to manifest, what do you want? And if you want love, it's like, okay, great. Well, who are you manifesting? If it's a partner, you know, or if you're already in a relationship, great. What specifically do you want to be changed? It's specificity. You have to know what you actually want. And so it's the number one question I ask people. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And it's a joke in the community of the tribe of individuals I work with, like, you're going to ask me what do I want, don't you? It's like, of course I am. You know, I teach people how to coach themselves. And so to have a conversation, a conscious conversation with their mind. And so a piece of that is, it's this formula of what do you want? And then you have to make a decision, and you have to commit to it, and you have to be all in. Mm-hmm. And you're deciding ahead of time what you're willing to go through in order to receive that. You know, if you want love, this was something that I've been working with manifesting, right? It was like, if that's what I wanted, well, then I need to choose love over fear, over and over and over and that is really hard work when you've been conditioned to protect.
Yeah.
I had conditioned myself over the years, from a child and on, from all of the misinterpretations of what our child mind does when they watch what's happening around us, and they think, oh, I must not be lovable, or I must not be worthy, blah, blah, blah. Like all these things that humans, that we misinterpret. And it's consciously choosing what I actually want. Love, 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 love. Like you know? And so it's, you know, manifesting isn't just like, I want love. And then it happens. Yeah. Every time I use that word, I can see people think like, oh, it's woo woo. No, it's science. It's physics. It's the law of energy. If you I came in here really understanding energy too, without needing any science to back it up. So science just backs up what my spiritual self knows. It's this piece around genuinely giving yourself permission to identify with specificity what you actually want, and then it goes back to that gap. There's always a gap between what you want and where you are. And so it's understanding that the way to bridge the gap is to look at it consciously and go, okay, so where am I misaligned? And then it's up to you to align yourself with what you actually want. And when you do, you will be surprised how quickly you are able to pull that into fruition. So the biggest thing is just, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And with abundance specifically, you have to get out of your own way, and you have to practice receiving it. Mm-hmm. So I did a whole series, actually, like a whole piece around abundance, because what I noticed was people were manifesting things, and I call it manifestation sabotage. They would like get in their own way. Or even something like, if I'm giving you a compliment and you're not receiving the compliment, you're blocking abundance. And if you're blocking abundance and the vibration of love, or, because to me, a compliment is love. It's expressing generosity of love. And I genuinely feel it, so I'm giving. And so if you're blocking it, it's like, what else are you blocking? Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's sometimes the tiniest of things are getting in our way and we don't even realize it. And then we're like, oh, this manifestation thing doesn't work. No, you don't work. You're getting in your own way. You're not putting in the work.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. What advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
Oh, I had a really, what?
It's such a tender age, isn't it? 15.
Yeah. I had a really rough go of the teenage years. It's that joke that like, if someone would pay you millions of dollars to go back and do it all, like do those years again, I'm like, no, I would pay you millions of dollars for me not to have to do that. The biggest thing I think is just knowing it's all happening for you. I wouldn't have the business that I have now, and it was all part of my soul mission. Mm-hmm. And the pain that I endured, I was able to transmute into light for other people, light for myself, abundance for others, abundance for myself. I mean, it's such the backbone and foundation of why I do what I do. And also, it's that, telling her like, by the way, I'm going to come back for you, not you specifically, but like I'm working on creating a nonprofit. Yeah. To work with individuals that are about 13, because I was looking for the age of people where like, when do we start to, I call it the blackout years. When do we start to learn to protect ourselves by turning off our spiritual gifts? And I notice it's like 10, 11, 12, 13. I can actually see a child. I can't guess ages very well, but I can see a child and see if they've turned off their light gift. And it kills me when I see someone who's like 7 or 8 who's turned their gift off. Yeah, it kills me. And so it's just understanding that everything is legitimately happening for us. And so that's what I would just be like, I know this doesn't make sense right now. And what's actually cool is I remember hearing that. I remember like future me coming to me and saying like, this will all make sense. You just have to get to 30. Yeah. Like since I was a child, I always heard you just have to get to 30. You just have to get to 30. You just have to get to 30. And I remember being about like 12 or 13 and wanting to die, and like I talk about that a little bit in the book too. I don't go into it much, but I just remember thinking like, I can't get to 30. Are you kidding me? Yeah. But I always heard that guidance. You just have to get to 30. And that's really cool because I didn't think of this until we're talking about this. So thank you for the question. It's, around 30 was when I like was, it was like the awaken, like the layer of awakening that eventually led me to this. Yeah.
All the weight, it just lifted. Oh, that gave me goosebumps. I need to give you a big hug next time I see you. So now with all that behind and only light ahead, where can you see yourself in 10 years?
Well, there's still probably a lot of darkness ahead, but I love darkness because it transmutes into light, and it's actually it's how I create all of the creations that I create. So I'm not afraid of darkness anymore. I was when I was a kid because I didn't understand it. Now I play with it, and I'm like treasure hunting for it. Like knock on wood, though. I'm like shit, not too much. But that's what growth is. So what's ahead? So I'm a visionary, and I'm able to actually see what happens 10 years, 30 years, 40. Like I can see all of those things. So it's the practice of pulling myself back into now that I am conscious, like them always playing with. Yeah. Everyone's mind works a little bit different, but a lot of light workers I've seen, they are visionaries. So they see what happens, and then they're like, well, how the hell do you get there from where I am? I don't have that problem either because I actually know how. It's just there are so many how paths that it's just consciously going like, okay, great, but like you got to write this book. Let's just do that one first. Cool. Okay, now let's do the audio book. Let's just finish it. But I keep jumping into these other patterns of like, or these other projects. I'm like, pull myself back. Like, no, just finish this one. Become a finisher. So I'm here to leave the largest imprint that has ever been left, and I know that. And it's also about navigating, there are some new pieces coming into my life that I've never had on my radar before, like actually creating a family of my own. And so it becomes this thing where it's just like, I don't it's this beautiful puzzle, which I love puzzles. I always have, just like the complexity of and challenge of creating a puzzle. So I think there are some pieces that I'm being guided in directions that I don't see how they fit in. And that's beautiful. Right. So it's like, cool, because I genuine believer we can have everything, and it's the and factor. I just also know that it has to be synchronistic. If you want to lose weight, you can't lose weight and have pizza. So I don't mean you can have it all, like you can lose weight. That's not how it works. You can't have two goals that are not synchronistic. You just can't. You can't be in a relationship and act as if you are a party of one. You can't do that, right? But at the same time, so it's just this really cool thing about looking at, like, okay, what are all these pieces? I've built this really amazing business, and I'm going to continue growing this thing, and I want a family of my own. And I'm creating that now. And so it's like this piece where it's like figuring out how all of that fits together. And the thing is that I would be really bored if I knew how everything happens. And or even what. So I know I see the visions of what happens imprint wise, but I don't see the visions of what happens fully in terms of how everything integrates. And that's actually a part of the element of surprise that I've asked Spirit to sustain with me, because I love surprise. So it just makes it more fun. So some things I know, some things I don't know, and I'm excited to just take that journey and keep moving forward.
So amazing. I can't wait to see it all unfold. It's very exciting. What are your favorite mantra or quotes or words of wisdom from your like role models? Or
so I think one of the two quotes come to mind immediately. One is the Marianne Williamson quote that I'm paraphrasing, but we are not afraid of our darkness. We are afraid of our light. We are more afraid of our power than we are of our weakness. That's almost like we embrace darkness and weakness as that ninja mind comfort zone thing, because we know what to expect in it. So I'm always again, that's one of my soul gifts, is ushering people into their power, like ushering them into that, like, just profound magic that they are. I'm not doing anything other than helping you remember who you are. That's it. Right. It's going inward, and it's that inward journey. Another one is Brené Brown, who I love. Her and I are going to be friends. We're already friends in my mind. She just doesn't know that. So mark my words, when that happens, you're going to be like, oh my God, she totally said they were going to be besties, and they are. She has this quote that is, choose discomfort over resentment. And I have lived by that. That gives me goosebumps, because I've lived by that since I heard that quote, and it has brought me into the most uncomfortable situations over and over and over and over and over again. And this goes back to courage and confidence. It's having the courage to step yourself into discomfort so that you are able to sustain the magic and beauty and love and connection in relationship. I don't always get it right. I've had a lot of times where I was like, shit, I did not choose discomfort, and now this person resents me, or I resent them. And, it's like, whether it's business or friends or, love, and it deteriorates. So but I'm consciously aware of it. And so it's in every moment, you can either choose to share how you're feeling, draw a boundary. I'm doing an entire program on boundaries because of this. Boundaries are so magical, and I don't think anyone's talking about it in a way of like how beautiful they are, and how much in your business and your, personal life and your love life and your family ships and your friendships, how much it will add so much sparkle and light and love and peace to yourself. And it just creates this beautiful ripple effect amongst the community of people that you're in when you start playing with boundaries. They don't need to be so rigid. And so to me, that's what choosing discomfort over resentment is. It's about figuring out what is it that allows you to be a sparkle factory, or what is it that allows you to be your joy factory, or the light, or humor, or whatever, and being able to sustain that versus not telling something, if someone hurts your feelings or is doing something that's like a paper cut and you don't say anything, and they tell you, and then 6 months later you dump it on them. Well, that's not a real friendship or a real relationship. You're not actually offering truth. You're basically choosing comfort over and over and over and over and over and over again until you can no longer take it. How the hell is that a real relationship? How are you setting yourself up for success? So I love that quote from her.
Yeah, it's incredible. Wow. I haven't heard that one. I could just talk to you forever, but I'll wrap it up with one last question. I'd love to know more about what you're working on this year and how we can follow your journey on social media and where we can find all of your amazing things.
So, so for the first time in 10 years, I'm sitting still for a temporary period of time, and I'm working, which has been really amazing because it's opened the door for the first time in years. I've always had a waiting list, and I've had for one-on-one people. I'm actually working with people one-on-one again, which is very exciting. So anyone who feels really pulled to like a very custom, soulfully expansive journey that will like change your life forever, I would recommend reaching out. You can email me at morgan@epicsexyu.com. So it's MORGAN at EPICSEXYYOU.com. So 2 Y's. I also am going to be doing some events in Miami, and I'll make sure to post those on the Epic Sexy You website. So www.epicsexyu.com. I will definitely pick back up retreats in either the latter part of this year or early in 2019. I'm just so enjoying giving myself permission to indulge in my heaven on earth. It's also why events this year will be people coming to share my heaven on earth with me here in Miami, because it's like gorgeous here. We can go to the beach. We can do all the things that we typically do when we travel anyways. It'll just be, I'll be able to be in my own home, enjoying my own family unit that I'm creating. And so it's like a new version of me gets to show up this year, which is pretty cool. What else am I working on? I'm really big, and I talked about this on the entrepreneur workshop that I did yesterday, is scaling, right? Figuring out I'm one person. I know that working with people one-on-one, the reason I like to work with light workers, I know that light workers will take whatever we work on and they will go leave like a spider web ripple effect of light to the world. So that's why I love working one-on-one with people who have this profound imprint that they would like to leave. And I also understand that to scale, in order to touch the lives that I want to touch, I have to create things that are one times infinity. Create something once, like the book, the audiobook. Create something that allows me to, it lives on and on and on. So I'm going to start creating a library where people can do different topics. So if there's any topics that you want covered, I'm working on a library where people will be able to come in and actually be able to go, oh, I want to get this one, I want to get this one, and really just kind of indulge in whatever soul wisdom that comes through, or all of my human years experience as well as my soul wisdom, and just taking the two and combining it and sharing that wisdom in little web formats like this, like little webisodes. And then I'm working on that boundaries program, because that to me is, when I ask what's the number one thing that I think will be a foundational piece that changes the world of each individual that I touch, it's boundaries. It's just, when we learn how to express who we are in a loving way and what we need and what we want, and then you get that, like, boundaries actually is the power of, it's the foundational key to abundance in a way that, feels really yummy. So I'm excited about that. And then I have to finish the audiobook. I just need to sit still and just be like, one thing, pull it through. So that'll be within the next couple of weeks. And just more stuff like that, just like, I'm really in I can feel already in the past couple of days, my creation energy coming back online. And then I would go to YouTube. And check out some of the videos. I did a really cool series with my bestie from Chicago. We talk about things like buying your own bullshit or buying other people's bullshit. We did a little intro on boundaries. We've done, yesterday we did a topic on self-care. So we're always doing different things. That'll be up soon. I haven't uploaded it yet. But by the time this is out, it will be, I'm sure, uploaded. And so YouTube is Epic Sexy You, all one word, EPICSEXYYOU. And then, Morgan Field on Facebook, MORGANFIELD, so like a baseball field. Or you could also Facebook's Epic Sexy You, and then Instagram is Epic Sexy You. So I love staying connected via social media. To me, that's always fun.
Definitely. I'm going to give myself permission to go on an Epic Sexy You YouTube binge.
Yes, yes. And let me know what you feel like would be topics that would be powerful to create. I think that's the thing that I love about what I've created and continue to create is it's not just me creating, it's community. You know, someone will say every retreat came from someone saying, oh, I'd really like this. And I'm like, cool, I'll do it. Or someone saying, oh, I see you in Iceland. And I'm like, I'll check it out. And then we went to Iceland. You know, one woman was like, I need a pamper trip. We did a pamper trip. You know, so it's just like, and every topic that we cover is typically comes from someone else says, this is what I want and need, versus me trying to decide what other people want and need. Now, occasionally I see patterns across the board. That's why the boundaries thing or the book, it's like, these are the things that I see every client I work with need. Then I create that way too.
That's so rad. I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Morgan.
Yeah.
Inspiring and empowering and so cool. I'm very stoked for the whole rest of the week now. Thank you so much.
Yes. Have a wonderful week. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. Bye, girl. See ya. Bye.